Now, let me take these things off. Now, so I'm not saying things which are not true, because I don't. Let's see what Paul VI, the destroyer of the Roman Rite, of unhappy memory, who probably got himself excommunicated from the church, became a schismatic against the body of Christ. But who knows? Maybe he died repentant. Apparently, he was in this distraught state for the last few years of his life. Maybe he woke up. Who knows? But anyways, here's what Paul VI, in his general audience, Wednesday, November 19th, 1969, so just before the issuance of his Missale Romanum. Actually, I want to say something about his that the missal has never been abrogated. I hope I have to remember to do that. But we're going to go through what's Paul VI thing and said, and then about the first of all, Benedict XVI himself said it's never been abrogated. It has never been abrogated. His Constitution Missale Romanum, he says, oh, these are decrees, blah blah blah, have nothing to do about abrogating the previous missal. So bam. So anyways, general audience of November 19th, 1969. So he says, look, I'm just going to not read the whole thing. I'm just going to quote a few words. The new liturgical order. So he's happy to welcome with joy and apply the new ordo, the new liturgical order. And then he says, he calls it the introduction into the liturgy. Liturgy being all the different worship of all the liturgies, as the ceremonies and rites and prayers of all the sacraments. So this is the whole liturgy of the church, including the divine office. Introduction into the liturgy of the new rite. The new rite of the Mass. The new rite. So it is not the Roman Rite. It is not any of the ancient Latin rites. It is the new rite. It is the rite of Paul VI. That is why the Knights of Malta, after they've been purged by Francis the Humble, they abandoned the ancient Roman Rite and adhere to the new rite, which the Knights of Malta themselves in 2019 say the Rite of Paul VI. The Rite of Paul VI. Accurate. The Rite of Paul VI. It's not the Roman Rite. Here, Paul VI himself calls it the new rite of the Mass. And not just of the Mass, of all, because this was step one. And then all 7 sacraments had a new rite of confirmation, the new rite of baptism, the new rite of penance, the new rite of marriage, the new rite of ordination. The new rite, not the Roman Rite, the rite of Paul VI. And he says, look, this is something surprising, extraordinary, not normal, being considered. The Mass, first of all, the Mass was a traditional and intangible expression of our religious worship. Says it somewhere that is untouchable. Of the authenticity of our faith. So this is the real Mass, the Roman Mass, or ancient liturgies. But now it's this authenticity of our faith, this traditional, intangible expression of our religious worship will be replaced by a new rite. And he calls it, this is a singular novelty. And the church throughout its history always condemned novelty. And St. Vincent of Lerins, he warns against novelty. Novelty is always condemned throughout the church's history. Why such change? So he gives, of course, his lying spiel. Obviously, it's a change. It's a new rite. It's a novelty. Here you go. It's written by Paul VI himself. And then he says another question. What does this change consist of? Many new ritual prescriptions. New ritual prescriptions because it's the new rite. It is a fabricated liturgy, as Ratzinger says. The Mass, and of course, all the other sacraments as well later on, of the new order, because of the new rite of the new order. As if in the new rite, blah, 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 blah. The third question, what were the consequences of the consequences? What consequences will the innovation we are discussing produce, the innovation. So it's a novelty, innovation, new rite, new order. Okay, get it through your heads. It's not the Roman Rite. The innovation. We will not therefore say new Mass, because it's the new rite of Mass. It's not the new Mass. It's the new rite of Mass, but rather a new epoch. A new epoch in the life of the Church. Of course, there was a new epoch. It is the beginning of the destruction of the Church on a global scale. That is what Paul VI says. It's not the Roman Rite. He himself tells you. It's not the like Benedict XVI attempted to be nice, even though he expressed the truth previously, as you have seen. It's pretending it's like one rite, and these are the two forms of the one rite. No. Paul VI, the inventor of the new rite, himself calls it the new rite, a novelty, an innovation, unprecedented. What more do you want? So here, one more time, Paul VI, general audience. A few days later, November 26, 1969, again, he calls it the new rite of the Holy Mass and of all the other sacraments later on. Okay? And he calls it the liturgical novelty. We turn to the liturgical novelty of the new rite, the liturgical novelty of the new rite of the Mass and of the other sacraments later on. New rite of the Mass, new rite of baptism, new rite of confirmation, new rite of marriage, new rite of ordination, new rite of extreme unction. The ceremonial development of the Mass touches this change, and we, including himself, will feel perhaps some annoyance. So his new rite will cause annoyance and cause multiple disturbance, and that all, which is that of all the novelties. Okay, so this prepare for changes, prepare for the destruction. Here you go. This novelty is no small thing. So it was not like, oh yeah, the Pope's tinkered with the liturgy, added a little feast here, maybe added a little prayer there. No, it's a new rite, novelty, disturbance, innovation, new order. This novelty is no small thing. That's what Paul VI himself says. This novelty is no small thing, and no Catholic may adhere to novelty, especially in liturgical matters, or in doctrine, of course. By the annoyance of his external forms, he even calls his own rite an annoying rite, especially in its external forms. And this is a serious change. And here it is, the greatest novelty, of course, the removal of the Latin language in defiance of Vatican II, which called for the preserving of the Latin language in the Latin rites and teaching the people how to say it. So when they pretend it's following Vatican II, it's not. It's defying everything. It's making up its own rite. But the new rite of the Mass, again, like how many times does he have to say it's the new rite, it's a novelty, it's an innovation, it's a new order? It is the new rite. Okay, this is again, I'm talking about the distinction between the Roman Missal and the new rite. Regulatory indications. But how will we be able to celebrate the new rite? It's not the Mass, the Roman Rite. Number one, for the Latin text, priests who celebrate in Latin in private or even in public, for the cases provided by the legislation, may use until November either the Roman Missal or the new Rite. Either the Roman Missal for the Roman Rite or the new Rite. He doesn't call it the Roman Missal of 1970. No, he calls it the new rite. So they can either use the Roman Missal or the new rite. Clearly a distinction. If we use the new rite, blah, blah, blah. So here you go. This is what Paul VI said. Calls it new rite, new order, novelty, innovation, unprecedented, annoying, cause disturbance. There you go. So, yeah, it's not the Roman Rite. It's a fabricated liturgy. Kept on saying, Cardinal Ratzinger said, call it a fabricated liturgy. Cardinal Ratzinger said, it's an innovation. Well, you know what? Let's finish Okay, yeah, let's do it. So anyways, again, I did a video on this, and I'll show you. Actually, maybe I'll just show you the little clip here. Is it a clip? No, not that one. Here. Annibale Bonini. I reviewed this book. And it's a very mild criticism, but it's actually describes what happened in the destruction of the Roman Rite. Annibale Bonini. And I have here a quote of what Cardinal Ratzinger says about this, the liturgical deform. About the liturgical deform. So I encourage you to watch this video. And this is another video which I did, like I said, I think I called it, Novus Ordo Mass, neither Catholic nor Apostolic. And we're going to go through slightly. In it, I talk about the two letters, two addresses of Paul VI himself in 1969, I believe, talking about the new Mass. He calls it a liturgical innovation of the new rite. He calls it a novelty. He calls it annoying. He calls it going to disturb souls. He calls it a new rite. He contrasts this with the Roman Rite. Like, these are the words of the Pope who brought us the liturgical deform himself, calling it a new rite, a novelty, and innovation. What more do you want? But anyways, if you want to follow this, I was ranting and raving here, like on this video, kind of like today. So I didn't actually put the thing on video, but I put the links to both letters here. So you can go actually read the two links for the words of Paul VI himself, what he said. Again, in the promo, like at this part, I'm actually quoting what Cardinal Ratzinger himself said. And actually here I quote the Knights of Malta, who, remember Francis kicked out basically Cardinal Burke out of the Knights of Malta. And then the Knights of Malta rejected the Real Roman Rite, and they themselves adapted the deformed liturgy, and they called it, the Knights of Malta themselves called it the Rite of Paul VI. They adapted the Rite of Paul VI, which is the accurate description, because it is not the Roman Rite. It's the Rite of Paul VI. So this one has, so as I said, Cardinal Ratzinger wrote a full introduction to the book by Monsignor Klaus Gamber, The Reform of the Roman Liturgy, Its Problems and Background. But this introduction was written for the French edition of the book, not the English edition. So here in this website, I'm not going to put you the link, you can search for it. But that's the full preface, a long introduction. And there's the English translation. Now, this is the French, and then there's the English. So I'm just going to show you again, in 30 Days magazine, it's like the Mass turned into a show. Again, they have a certain part of that, the Mass reduced to a show, by Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger. And basically this is the full summary of what I'm going to quote you now. So again, I'm going to let you do that. Let's go with the actual, like the point of what I've been repeating over and over again. This comes again from the Reform of the Roman Liturgy of Monsignor Klaus Gamber in the French edition. Cardinal Ratzinger, head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, had this to say. That's in the preface to the French edition. What happened after the council was something entirely different. He contrasted, remember his talk, which I quoted at the beginning of his letter to the bishops, that the liturgy grew organically over the centuries, in contrast with what happened after the council, was something entirely different. In the place of a liturgy, the fruit of development came fabricated liturgy. We abandoned the organic living process of growth and development over the centuries and replaced it, the real liturgy, as in a manufacturing process, with a fabrication, a banal on the spot product. So we replaced the real liturgy with the fabrication, a banal on the spot product. And this is a falsification. And what's happening now is a continued revolution. And he quotes this, in the end, we will, in the end, where is it? Oh, here, this is an important part. The pastoral benefits that so many idealists had hoped the new liturgy of the new rite would bring did not materialize. Our churches emptied in spite of the new liturgy. Or is it because of it? It's actually because of the new liturgy. Our churches emptied. And the faithful continued to fall away from the church in droves. And again, Cardinal Ratzinger says, in the end, we will all have to recognize that the new liturgical forms, well-intentioned, he has to say that, I guess, as they may have been, their intention was to make the liturgy more Protestant, to make it more agreeable to our separated brethren, so they will not find the content of the traditional Roman Rite offensive to their doctrinal aberrations. And that's admitted by the fabricator of the fake Roman Rite, Annibale Bonini. All right? Himself, he says that. So no matter how well-intentioned the destroyers of the Roman Rite might have been at the beginning, did not. So basically, in the end, we will have to recognize that the new liturgical forms, well-intentioned, blah, 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 did not provide the people with bread, but with stones. Harsh words from Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, head of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. That is what he says.